Chapter 16. I neglected to get in touch with Cynthia for the rest of that Monday. I know it's bad form to sleep with a woman and not check in with her the next day, even if you have spent the morning after together, but my ramblings with Leo went late. Also, I was feeling some tension. Yes, she was beautiful. Yes, she was charming. Was I falling in love? I didn't think so. The murder, the break in, the conflict with the cops, all of that brought intrigue to the relationship. But that didn't have anything to do with either of us on the inside. And in other circumstances, I don't think we would have had that much to talk about. I was also confused about my motives for getting involved in this situation. Initially, it was chivalry or showing off, depending on what you want to call it. Then Cynthia left town and left me holding the bag, taking care of details in her life and chasing down answers that were her responsibility, or if not hers, certainly not mine. Returning home alone after my evening with Leo, a little tipsy, I was feeling resentful. I had spent the past few years carefully crafting a life where I was not beholden to anything or anyone that I didn't choose, and now I was getting embroiled in this thing with Alex. I spent Tuesday running errands and fixing things around the building. I can usually lose myself in those mundane activities, but my mind kept turning over the Alex situation and my mixed feelings. Cynthia had told me that her rehearsal on Tuesday had been pushed until late in the day, so the cast would have more time at home in the city. As a result, I couldn't reach her until late Tuesday night, and by the time I picked up the phone, my resentment was at its peak. When the lady she was staying with answered the phone, she sounded a little peeved. Cynthia had said she was a secretary at a local bank who volunteered with the theater. She probably wasn't used to getting phone calls at 11:30 at night. She dropped the phone on something hard and called out for Cynthia. I heard another extension pick up and Cynthia's voice. "I've got it. Sorry." When the other extension hung up, Cynthia said, "Hello?" "Cynthia, why did Alex get fired from his job?" "Oh, Zach, hello. I missed you too. You're so romantic. I love the way you murmur sweet nothings. Sorry, I'm tangled up trying to figure out where to go the next with this thing. I filled her in on my day and my suppositions. I don't know, Zach. It sounds like a stretch. What could the restaurants have to do with Alex's death? I don't know, Sin, I said testily, but it's all I've got right now. I'm grasping at any loose end I can think of so I can tug on it and see if something comes undone. If you've got any better ideas, I'd be happy to hear them. I'm sorry. Don't get defensive. Jeez. I'm not getting defensive, but these guys are pissing me off, and now I want to know what happened. So tell me everything you can think of anyway. But I don't understand what getting fired from a restaurant could have to do with it. Listen, it's like I used to tell potential clients. You've got to tell me everything, I'd say, and I mean everything, whether you think it's significant or not. I'd have to explain to them over and over that I knew the law and they didn't. Things they had said or done that seemed trivial and unrelated could end up killing a case. Half the time, they'd end up not telling me something crucial anyway. It would come out later and we'd get blown out of the water. Then they'd be all pissed off at me because they lost their case and they had to pay me anyway. It didn't help to explain that I never would have taken their case to begin with if I'd been given all the facts. Okay, she said, so what do you want me to do? Just tell me everything you can think of about the restaurant, about his job, his getting fired, anything. When did he start working there? Where? Tempo or Hentai? Both. He started at Tempo when he came to the city a year and a half ago, and he'd been taking shifts at Hentai for about 4 months. 4 months. So that was definitely before he started acting weird. Yeah. How'd he hook up there? It's owned by the same guys, the brothers. He was bartending at both places? No, he was waiting tables at Tempo. You said the brothers. Who's that? The Melfi brothers. There are four of them, and they own five restaurants in the city. Which ones? Well, Melfi, of course, and Tempo and Hentai, and I think Pentimento and Agave are theirs also. I had never heard of these guys, the Melfi brothers, but they had to be hot. Those five restaurants were among the hippest places in town, but all with very different styles and running to very different crowds. I had never been to Melfi, an Upper East Side, upper crust Italian restaurant, very white linen, nor had I been to its more casual cousin, Pentimento. I had never been to Tempo either until my run in with Sally, nor had I been to Hentai, but I had passed by and I knew its reputation. Very slick, very dark, black and chrome, serving cutting edge Pacific Rim fusion cuisine to a crowd that was mostly young, mostly single, and mostly had more disposable income than was healthy for people that age. I recalled that a few months ago, the notorious heiress of a large international hotel chain had danced on a table there in various stages of undress, earning herself another in a long string of page six photos. Agave in Chelsea had a Central American theme. I had been there on two occasions, once early and once late. The food was very good, and the incredible list of tequilas made up for the fact that the Mexican beers don't knock me out. The large dining section was separated from the equally large bar, so that half of the restaurant was a little more family friendly. Even so, late at night, all the breeders would be gone, putting the kiddies to bed, and the rest of the Chelsea crowd could hold sway throughout the joint. How did he end up working for these guys? Another actor friend from Chicago was bartending at Hentai, and he hooked Alex up. So he started at Tempo and then got moved to Hentai. How come? The bartending slot came open, and Alex had a lot of experience behind a bar from Chicago, so they moved him over there. I don't know if there was any more to it than that. And then he got fired, I said. How long ago? It was about 2 months ago, about 2 months before he died. This before or after the change in his behavior? Let me see, she said. I heard what sounded like the rustle of sheets, and I had a flash from the night before last. Her face above me and what little light made it up to my loft bed from the street lamp. Her eyes filled with tears that spilled over, landed on my chest and mixed with our mingled sweat. Her leaning closer, the curtain of her hair blocking out the street light, darkness obscuring her eyes. Her voice on the phone brought me back. It was before, she said. I remember because there were a few times when he switched shifts around because of whatever he was wrapped up in. How long before? I'm not sure. A couple of weeks, maybe? So he was still working there when you overheard that phone conversation, when you heard him use that phrase, the devil's playground. I'm not sure. That was right around the time he got fired, but I'm not sure if it was before or after. Right around then, though. I was quiet, trying to figure out where to go next. Zach, are you there? Yeah, I'm just thinking. That's a weird phrase, the devil's playground. You don't have any idea what he was talking about? No, you're right. It is weird. Did he talk about that kind of stuff? What kind of stuff do you mean? I don't know what I mean. Devils, good and evil. His parents were in this cult. Those people can be pretty fanatical at times. The devil's playground sounds like something a fundamentalist, an evangelical preacher, something someone like that would say. And? And maybe he was still speaking that language somehow. Those restaurants the Melfis own, they're all high life, singles, La Dolce Vita kinds of places. A lot of sex and drugs and rock and roll in that crowd. If Alex was raised in the midst of some kind of fundamentalist weirdness, then maybe the scene at Hentai was having an effect on him, waking up some memories. Maybe he was having some responses to that stuff that were influenced by his earlier experiences with his family. I don't think so. Not Alex. Why not? he was well past all that. It's not like he was ever really under the influence of the spiritual brainwashy aspects of the cult. It was more something he did because it was expected by his family. To hear him tell it, he never really bought into the philosophy behind the whole thing to the extent his family did, even when he was still united with them. It certainly wasn't something that was going to rear its head later. So maybe it was just a handy turn of phrase. Maybe. There is something else, though. You know, he had some trouble with his unemployment claim with them, with the restaurant? Yeah, you said. What about it? Well, it was denied because they said he was fired for cause, which was bullshit. But you can't get unemployment if you're fired for cause. They gave him that crap about the buybacks, and they also said there were discrepancies with the cash or the inventory. He was responsible for cashing everything out at the end of the evening, and they said a couple of times there were problems there. They also said the inventory had been off since he'd been taken on. Okay, so his claim was denied. What about it? That's the funny thing. He was appealing the decision. He was really pissed, said it was bullshit. So why did he say he was fired? He just said it was because they didn't like him. What do you think? Well, naturally, I side with Alex. I don't think he was a thief. If anything, he was too responsible. He was always concerned with moral or ethical considerations, even in his work as an actor. Those were the parts, the plays that attracted him. I can't see him stealing from his employer. Something must have been going on. They wouldn't deny his claim for no reason. There's nothing. No, she interrupted. Here's the funny thing. He went down there one afternoon to talk to the manager at Hentai about it. I remember he was really angry and really nervous. Then when he came back, he seemed really upset, but he filed his appeal anyway, and they totally backed down. His claim ended up going through, and he got his money. What's so funny about that? Why would they reverse themselves like that? I mean, he was fired. It's not like they were downsizing. They canned him. There's no reason for them to turn around and okay his claim. Now that you mention it, I said, if Alex knew anything about unemployment, there was no reason for him to file the claim to begin with. If he was fired, he'd have known his claim would be denied. So does any of this help? No, I don't think so. It just makes it all more confusing. So what are you going to do? Maybe I'll have to go to the source. Maybe I'll see if I can talk to the manager at Hentai about what's going on. Do you think that's a good idea? What do you mean? Well, that lady cop told you to stay away from there. She sounds like she meant business. And this other cop this morning, he was saying the same thing. I don't want you getting into any trouble. I'm not going to get into any trouble. They can't stop me from talking to people, especially if the party line is that he killed himself or died accidentally. If they're going to tell me I'm interfering with an investigation, they're going to have to admit that there is an investigation. But do you think it's safe? Why wouldn't it be safe? Zach, Alex was murdered. Yeah. Well, if you go poking around, I'm just going to go down there and talk to the manager about Alex's unemployment claim, for Christ's sake. I'll say I'm the attorney for his estate, and there's some information I need for some paperwork or some such bullshit. I'm sure they're not killing people over unemployment claims. But you yourself said we don't know what's going on, what's connected to what. What if you bump into something that's tied to why Alex was killed and get yourself in trouble? I don't want you in any danger. Stumble, I said. What? Stumble across something. You said bump into something. You meant stumble across something. I'm serious, Zachary. So am I. Why are you being an ass about this? What do you mean being an ass? I'm busting my ass is what I'm doing. A little appreciation would be nice. Hold it a second. I do appreciate it. But I didn't ask you to take on the whole case. I'm just worried about your safety. And who's worried about Alex? What do you mean, who's worried about Alex? Just that. Who's worried about him? His parents don't care. The cops aren't interested. You're off doing your play. Who's worried about Alex? My voice had gotten really loud. Jesus, Zach, what's wrong with you? What are you getting so upset about? You didn't even know him. Yeah, and the more I look into this thing, the more it looks like no one really did, and now it looks like no one really cares. There were tears in my eyes now. You know what? Cynthia said, I don't need this right now. You do what you've got to do. You're very upset, and I don't even understand why. I don't understand what all this has to do with you, why you've suddenly got a personal stake in this. Personal stake? I thought I was doing you a favor. You are, but I don't know why you're getting pissed off at me. She was right, and I didn't have an answer for her. Not then. I only knew that my chest was tight and I was finding it hard to breathe. I have that shaky feeling in my elbows that you got when you were a little kid and you knew your parents were really, really pissed off at you. I don't know either, I said. Look, you're right. I don't know why I'm being such an asshole. It's just, maybe you're right. Maybe I should drop this for a while. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I gotta go now. We'll talk more later. Okay. Okay. There was silence on the line. Okay. Well, I guess I'll talk to you later then. All right. All right. Well, then, bye. Bye, she said, and hung up. I sat there for a minute, staring at the receiver in my hand. Then I remembered there was a bottle of Deliverance from Lost Abbey in the fridge, and I decided to drink it. And that is the end of chapter 16. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and make sure you hit the bell so that you get notifications of other readings coming up. And also head over to my website, MatthewArkin.com, and subscribe for my newsletter, which will give you interesting articles on writing and acting.